professional wrestling has its share of incredible highs and devastating lows.
Please welcome our father, Rikishi.
One of the most heartbreaking stories is that of Yokozuna, a towering figure in WWE who left us far too soon. Once a dominant WWE champion and Royal Rumble winner, Yokozuna was a huge name in the 1990s. However, behind the scenes, Yokozuna faced severe health issues that eventually cut his promising career short. For newer fans or those who may not be fully aware, Yokozuna's passing occurred over 2 decades ago.
He was getting up there and we were just getting concerned. He wasn't moving like the old Yoko. You got to learn a new behavior, otherwise you're going to die.
But today, we'll be unfolding the truth behind Yoko's death, the tragic end.
I stood in the shadows when it's my turn!
While touring in England, wrestling legend Yokozuna tragically passed away on October 23, 2000, at just 34 years old, a young age to lose someone. Initially, there was confusion over what caused his death, with many suspecting a heart attack. However, it was later confirmed that he died from pulmonary edema, a condition where fluid builds up in the lungs. His weight, unfortunately, was a driving factor that led to the fall of this great giant. Yokozuna had been trying to shed the extra pounds, but sadly it was too late. For someone so young, it's a heartbreaking loss not just for his family, but for the world of professional wrestling. His lifestyle, like that of many wrestlers, took a toll on his health. The intense WWE schedule often pushes wrestlers to the edge, and Yokozuna struggled with his weight, fighting personal battles that he couldn't overcome. Yokozuna was known for his massive size, which became both his trademark and his downfall. In WWE, he took on the persona of a sumo wrestler, wearing traditional Japanese attire and carrying a Japanese flag to the ring. Just like real sumo wrestlers, Yokozuna believed bigger was better, and this led him to extreme eating habits. He followed some wild diets and developed unhealthy tendencies in order to keep up his massive frame, but this eventually spiraled out of control. At one point, both Yokozuna and fellow wrestler Vader were pulled off WWE TV because their size had become a serious concern. WWE hoped they could use the time off to slim down and improve their health. However, the temptation of fast food was too strong for both of them. They were known to sneak out for late-night fast food binges, even though they were supposed to be focusing on their health. When someone starts sneaking food like that, it's a sign of something deeper, an addiction. Yokozuna's struggle with his weight wasn't just about physical appearance. It was a real battle, and unfortunately at that time, there wasn't as much understanding about food addiction or how to properly handle it. In today's world, we recognize that these behaviors are part of a larger issue that requires support and treatment. But back then, it wasn't as clear. Yokozuna's struggles with his weight eventually led to his release from WWE in 1998. Jim Ross, a longtime commentator and WWE insider, mentioned on his podcast that Yokozuna's growing weight wasn't just a performance issue, it raised serious health concerns. After the sudden passing of fellow wrestler Brian Pillman not long before, WWE was extra cautious about the health of their talent, and Yokozuna's condition was becoming a real risk. As Jim Ross explained, Yoko's weight kept going up, and the more he gained, the worse his stamina became. He said, he gained 100 pounds, he got huge. When you get out of breath or fatigued, and you're starting to lose strength in the ring, sometimes you just can't execute. Somebody as large as Yokozuna, a minor miscue could be very devastating. Vince McMahon didn't want to take any risks when it came to Yokozuna's health, especially from a liability standpoint. After releasing him from WWE, Yokozuna continued to wrestle here and there on the independent scene. This eventually led him to a show in England, where tragedy would strike. His passing was a huge loss for the wrestling world. Yokozuna was famous not only for his incredible size, but also for the larger-than-life stories shared by those who knew him best. His nephews, Jimmy and Jay Uso, fondly remembered spending a lot of time with Yokozuna and their dad, Rikishi, when they were off the road. During an interview on Talk is Jericho, they reminisced about family barbecues, dancing, and even taking Yokozuna's signature leg drop at just 8 years old. The USOs also shared how special arrangements had to be made for his sleep due to his size, giving a glimpse into the day-to-day challenges Yokozuna faced. It was described that when Yokozuna would sleep, he would have to do so while sitting up. Yokozuna was so big that he couldn't even lie down to sleep like most people. Instead, he had a unique way of resting. He would sit on the floor and lean his back against the couch to sleep. That was his routine. His size made it impossible for him to lie flat in a regular bed. Jimmy and Jay Uso remembered this vividly from their childhood. They shared how, when they knew their uncle Rodney, Yokozuna, was coming home, their dad, Rikishi, would say, "Rodney's coming home." The family would spring into action, gathering up blankets and pillows to make him a cozy little setup in the den. They'd lay everything out on the floor so he could sit back and lean against the couch to rest. It became a special family tradition, with the USOs preparing his makeshift bed every time he visited. Those legendary barbecues at Yokozuna's home weren't just family affairs, they became gatherings for fellow wrestlers too. The Godwins, a popular tag team back in the day, recalled on In Your Head Radio that Yokozuna was an amazing guy, both inside and outside the ring. They said, "What was Yokozuna like as a person? He was awesome, in the ring and out. He would invite us to huge barbecues where he lived in California, and we always felt invited and comfortable around his family." Yokozuna made sure his home was a place where everyone felt like part of the family, even his wrestling colleagues. Many wrestlers have also shared fond memories of Yokozuna over the years.
And now, Bret Hart. Oh, belly to belly.
Bret Hart, one of his biggest rivals in the 90s, had plenty of stories about their time together. According to Hart, they played pranks on each other, with one involving laxatives and a broken toilet, all thanks to Yokozuna. Even though they faced off in some of the most intense matches, behind the scenes, they shared laughs and formed a strong friendship. Then there was The Undertaker, who had a close bond with Yokozuna that went beyond their iconic rivalry in the ring. On the Out of Character podcast with Ryan Satin, Undertaker opened up about their friendship, saying, "Yeah, Yoko and I were very close, and there's not a day I don't think about him. That's not always the case. There's a lot of guys that you don't like, that you don't play cards with." He then went on to say, "It just happened to be that Yokozuna and I were really close, and we spent a lot of downtime playing dominoes and playing cards." The Undertaker shared a funny detail about his time with Yokozuna, explaining how their friendly card games sometimes carried over into the ring. If Yokozuna lost on cards, The Undertaker would jokingly brace himself because Yoko might dish out a little extra punishment during their match, especially with his famous bonsai drop. But as much as they shared laughs, The Undertaker became emotional when reflecting on their bond, showing just how close they were behind the scenes. Yokozuna's legacy remains strong as one of the most impressive big men to ever step foot in a wrestling ring. His career in WWE had its highs and lows, but at his peak, he was a dominant force. Even as his role shifted over time, Yokozuna reached heights that few others have. He was the top villain, the #1 heel, headlining 2 consecutive WrestleManias. That's a huge achievement in itself. On top of that, he's part of an elite group of performers who can say they've held the WWE Championship. And Yokozuna did it twice, defeating wrestling icons Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan to claim the title. His in-ring success doesn't soften the blow of losing him so early. Yokozuna was gone too soon, leaving behind a legacy that still burns with fire with wrestling fans today. But who was this man behind the legendary sumo gimmick? And what made Yokozuna, a wrestler larger than life, so great? The famous Anoa'i family dynasty member, Agatupu Rodney Anoa'i, born October 2, 1966, and sadly passing on October 23, 2000, was a legendary professional wrestler better known as Yokozuna. He made his mark in the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, with his sumo wrestler persona, even though he was Samoan American, not Japanese. His ring name was a nod to the top rank in sumo wrestling.
There's been so much action there, we've sort of ignored who's in the ring. Take a look at this. Wow.
And he was often accompanied by the flamboyant Mr. Fuji, who would march to the ring with a wooden bucket of salt and wave a Japanese flag. Rodney came from a wrestling dynasty, the Anoa'i family, and was trained by his uncles, the Wild Samoans, from a young age. He kicked off his wrestling career in 1985, bouncing around various wrestling promotions with names like Giant Coquina and Great Coquina. He even took a shot at the CWA World Heavyweight Championship in Germany in 1988, though he didn't snag the title. In August 1988, Yokozuna, then wrestling as Great Coquina, started making waves in Japan with New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW. During the Sengoku Series tour, he threw down with opponents like Super Strong Machine and Tatsutoshi Goto, and teamed up with other big names like Crusher Bam, Bam Bigelow, and Scott Hall. He was back in Japan in mid-1989 for the Summer Fight Series, where he formed a dynamic duo with Big Van Vader and Mike Kirchner. They they faced off against wrestling legends like Kengo Kimura and Riki Choshu. In the fall, Yokozuna joined the Tukan series, continuing his tag team action, with Vader and battling top stars like Masahiro Chono. In early 1990, during the New Spring Gold series, Yokozuna teamed up with Vader and even paired with future WWF tag team partner Owen Hart. They made a strong push for the IWGP Tag Team Championship but fell short. Yokozuna returned for a brief stint in July 1990 as part of the Wrestling Scramble, where he and Wild Samoan, as the Samoan SWAT team, challenged for the IWGP Tag Team titles once again. His final Japanese tour in September 1990 during the Explosion Tour saw him reuniting with Wild Samoan. In April 1991, Yokozuna returned to NJPW for his 7th tour, known as the Explosion Tour. He mostly wrestled in six-man tag matches alongside Scott Norton and Pegasus Kid. He came back for more action during the Summer Crush Tour in July and the Battle Autumn Tour in September, where he teamed up with Wild Samoan. At the end of the Battle Autumn Tour, Yokozuna and his team scored a victory in the Memorial Battle in Yokohama, beating Black Cat and others in a big showdown. In October 1991, Yokozuna joined the Supergrade Tag League with Great Kokina. They won one match, but lost the rest, ending up at the bottom of the league standings. He made another appearance in March 1992 during the Big Fight series, where he and Wild Samoan, known as the Samoan SWAT team, faced off against tough competitors like Keiji Muto and Masahiro Chono in a high-stakes match. The SWAT team continued to wrestle on the Masters of Wrestling Tour in June and July, and wrapped up their NJPW stint in September 1992 during the Battle Autumn Tour, where they ended on a losing note against Raging Staff. In 1989, Yokozuna made his U.S. debut with the American Wrestling Association, AWA, as Kokina Maximus, managed by Sheikh Adnan El Kassi. He quickly made an impact, especially when he performed a dramatic big splash on Greg Gagne, ending Gagne's career. His AWA run ended in April 1990 with a loss to Yukon John Nord in a lumberjack match at Superclash 4. By 1992, Vince McMahon of the WWF took notice and reached out to Yokozuna, offering him a spot on the roster. On August 17th, he debuted on Primetime Wrestling with the Samoans, soon to be known as the Head Shrinkers. Yokozuna made his first appearance as Kokina in an untelevised match in Hershey, Pennsylvania, but soon after, he was given the iconic Yokozuna gimmick that would become his wrestling legacy. On October 31st, 1992, Yokozuna made his big WWE debut on Superstars, rocking a sumo wrestler gimmick that celebrated Japanese culture, complete with a mawashi sumo loincloth over long tights, though some felt he should have just worn the mawashi like a true sumo pro. His look was revamped with a clean shave and a fancy Chanmage hairstyle, making him look every bit the sumo champion. Yokozuna's impact was immediate. At the Survivor Series on November 25th, he crushed the smaller Virgil with his massive weight. By January 24th, 1993, he had fans buzzing after he won the Royal Rumble by tossing out Randy Savage, proving he was on the fast track to main event stardom. His debut on Monday Night Raw was a statement, as he took down Koko Beware with his powerful bonsai drop. Soon after, Hacksaw Jim Duggan aimed to be the first to knock Yokozuna off his feet. On February 6th, Duggan did manage to take him down, but Yokozuna got his revenge by sneaking up with a bucket of salt and delivering 4 bonsai drops, leaving Duggan with a kayfabe injury. At WrestleMania 9th on April 4th, Yokozuna faced Bret Hart for the WWF Championship. With Hart on the verge of winning, Mr. Fuji threw salt in Hart's eyes, letting Yokozuna pin him and snag the title. Celebrating his victory, Yokozuna was quickly challenged by Hulk Hogan, who ended up defeating him after Fuji accidentally blinded Yokozuna with salt. Yokozuna wasn't done, though. On June 13th at King of the Ring, with his weight climbing to 550 pounds, he regained the championship from Hogan with a fiery assist from a Japanese press photographer who shot fire into Hogan's face. After the match, Yokozuna and Mr. Fuji claimed they had ended Hulkamania and celebrated with a body slam competition on the USS Intrepid. Lex Luger swooped in by helicopter and managed to slam the big man, setting up his own challenge for the title. In August 1994, Yokozuna, tipping the scales at a whopping 568 pounds, faced off against Lex Luger at SummerSlam for the WWF Championship. Luger, who had metal plates in his arm from a motorcycle crash, started to dominate with his powerful moves, including a big body slam and a flying forearm. But just as Yokozuna was knocked out of the ring, he lost by countout, keeping his title since you can't win a championship that way. Despite the close call, Yokozuna's new manager, James E. Cornette, had a plan. If Luger didn't win, he'd never get another shot at the the title. The rivalry continued and peaked at Survivor Series, where the two led their teams in a big elimination match. Yokozuna was knocked out of the ring after a brawl with The Undertaker, and Luger's team won the match. Yokozuna's next big challenge came from The Undertaker, leading to a casket match at the Royal Rumble in January 1994. With some sneaky help from other wrestlers, Yokozuna managed to stuff The Undertaker into the casket. After the match, a spooky figure appeared on the Titantron, pretending to be The Undertaker and floating up to the ceiling, setting up a dramatic storyline while The Undertaker took time off to heal. In the Royal Rumble match, Luger and Bret Hart eliminated each other at the same time, so both earned a title shot at WrestleMania X. Luger went first, with Mr. Perfect as the referee. Luger knocked Yokozuna out but got disqualified for pushing Mr. Perfect, making Yokozuna the first bad guy to keep the title at WrestleMania. Later that night, Yokozuna faced Bret Hart with Roddy Piper as the referee. Despite Yokozuna's efforts, he lost his balance during his finishing move, and Bret Hart pinned him, ending Yokozuna's impressive 280-day title reign. After losing the title, Yokozuna's spotlight dimmed a bit. He briefly teamed up with Crush, another wrestler managed by Mr. Fuji. On the May 16th episode of Raw, he faced Earthquake in the only sumo match before WrestleMania 21, where the Big Show would later square off against real-life sumo champion Akabono. At King of the Ring on June 19th, Yokozuna and Crush tried and failed to snag the WWF Tag Team Championship from the Head Shrinkers. Then Yokozuna had to deal with a resurrected Undertaker. They clashed in another casket match at Survivor Series on November 23rd, with Chuck Norris as the special enforcer to keep the bad guys at bay. Despite the extra help, Yokozuna ended up locked in the casket again after a sneaky interference. Yokozuna even took some time off to bulk up even more. He was part of the famous Anoa'i wrestling family, with cousins like Roman Reigns, Rikishi, and The Rock. He had two kids, Justin and Kalani, and was known for his fear of spiders and his monster daily meals: 240 eggs, 12 pieces of chicken, and a huge bucket of rice. Tragically, on October 23, 2000, Yokozuna passed away in his sleep from pulmonary edema while on tour in the UK. At SummerSlam that year, he fought Stone Cold Steve Austin in a free-for-all match, a far cry from his previous main event glory. On that fateful night, Yokozuna's weight became the unexpected focus of his match. During the bout, as Austin lay prone,
He was getting up there, and we were just getting concerned. He wasn't moving like the old Yoko.
ready for Yokozuna's devastating bonsai drop, something went wrong. So stay close, because that's what we're hoping to look into next. Could something else have happened in the ring that day that led to Yokozuna's death? Most memorable WWE moments. Yokozuna burst onto the WWE scene like a freight train, making a huge impact in just his first 6 months. As a towering villain, or monster heel, he bulldozed his way through opponents with ease.
Yoko was a really good athlete, 600 pounds, but he could move like a cat.
One of his most memorable early moments came at the 1992 Survivor Series, where he flattened Virgil, leaving fans in awe of his huge size and strength. By the time the 1993 Royal Rumble rolled around, everyone knew Yokozuna was a serious threat. He wasn't just there to participate, he was there to win. And he did just that, steamrolling past some of WWE's biggest names, including Earthquake, a literal giant, and the legendary Macho Man Randy Savage.
He's got to be ready to be picked.
When Yokozuna tossed Savage over the top rope to win, he made history as the first bad guy to claim victory in the Royal Rumble since it became a major pay-per-view event. His win instantly shot him up to become one of WWE's top contenders and set the stage for his rise in the months to come. Yokozuna's Royal Rumble win marked the peak of a massive push in WWE, at a time when the company was desperate for a top-tier villain to challenge its big stars like Randy Savage, Bret Hart, Tatanka, Crush, and The Undertaker. Yokozuna, with his unstoppable presence, was the perfect candidate to fill that role. His victory earned him a ticket to WrestleMania 9, which should have been his crowning moment, but what unfolded at Las Vegas's Caesars Palace didn't go quite as planned for the Giant. Yokozuna won the WWE Championship from Bret Hart, only to lose it mere moments later to Hulk Hogan in one of the shortest title reigns in WWE history. It was a crushing blow that left him on the wrong side of history, but the Samoan juggernaut wasn't one to stay down for long. Just 2 months later, at the King of the Ring pay-per-view, Yokozuna faced off against Hogan again, determined to reclaim the championship. In the main event, Yoko weathered a fierce offense from the Hulkster, and with the help of a sneaky fireball attack from a disguised photographer, regained his WWE championship. Yokozuna's redemption at King of the Ring solidified him as one of the most dangerous and cunning superstars on the roster, proving that even after a historic setback, he was still a force to be reckoned with. Yokozuna's victory at King of the Ring was more than just another title win. It was a statement.
Yokozuna, one leg up. Two.
After humiliating Hogan with a leg drop, the very move the legend made famous, it was clear WWE was all in on making Yokozuna the top villain. No longer just another big bad, he was now the centerpiece of the main event scene. This win was WWE's way of correcting the mistake of his short-lived WrestleMania 9th title reign and setting him up for a reign of dominance. From that point on, every major babyface in the company had their sights set on him, but Yokozuna proved to be an unstoppable force. He bulldozed his way through the competition, earning himself a spot as one of WWE's greatest champions. At WrestleMania 9, Yokozuna defeated Bret the Hitman Hart to become WWE champion, thanks to a sneaky assist from his manager Mr. Fuji, who threw salt into Hart's eyes. It was supposed to be a crowning moment for Yokozuna, making him the new top villain in WWE. But something unexpected happened, and definitely not in his favor. Just as Yokozuna was soaking in his big win, Mr. Fuji, riding high on arrogance, challenged Hulk Hogan, who had come to ringside to check on Hart. In a wild twist of events, Hogan accepted the challenge, dodged another salt-throwing attempt, and hit his famous leg drop to steal the title from Yokozuna, just moments after his big victory. It should have been Yokozuna's night to shine, but instead the spotlight shifted to Hogan, robbing the newly crowned champ of his moment. This move has gone down as one of WWE's biggest creative blunders, a decision that hurt not just Yokozuna, but also Bret Hart and the company's efforts to move forward with its new generation era. Even decades later, fans still look back on that moment as a missed opportunity, where WWE sacrificed the future to give Hogan one last hurrah on the stage he helped build. What should have been a defining moment for Yokozuna became one of the more frustrating chapters in WWE history. The 1994 Royal Rumble, however, saw one of the wildest WWE Championship matches ever, a casket match between Yokozuna and The Undertaker. This wasn't just any match, it was over-the-top chaos, making it one of the most ridiculous bookings in WWE history. Yokozuna didn't take down the dead man on his own. Oh no, he needed help from a whopping 10 other superstars. With their interference, they managed to shove The Undertaker into the casket, securing Yokozuna's victory. But the craziness didn't stop there. As Yokozuna tried to celebrate, things got downright spooky. The Undertaker's spirit seemingly poured out of his urn, filling the arena with eerie vibes. Then, out of nowhere, the screen lit up with Undertaker's face. Right before everyone's eyes, he rose from the dead and floated into the sky in an unforgettable and supernatural exit. Undertaker wasn't seen for 8 long months after that, but when he returned, it was all about payback. In a rematch, also a casket match, he finally put an end to their rivalry, defeating Yokozuna and closing the chapter on one of WWE's craziest feuds. Sadly, by 1996, Yokozuna's time in WWE was winding down. His battle with weight issues had started to overshadow his once unforgettable presence, leading him to less prominent roles. At SummerSlam that year, Yokozuna faced Stone Cold Steve Austin in a free-for-all match, marking a fall from his former glory. Once a main event fixture, he was now struggling to land on the major pay-per-view cards. The night became memorable for all the wrong reasons. Yokozuna, struggling with his size, attempted his signature bonsai drop on Austin. As he climbed the ropes, they couldn't handle his massive weight and snapped under him. Yokozuna crashed down, hitting his head and leaving him vulnerable. Austin took full advantage, pinning him for the win. This embarrassing moment was more than just a rough night. It was a loud wake-up call about Yokozuna's health and weight issues. The match served as a final, unfortunate highlight of his career on TV, marking the end of his time as a major WWE player. Fast forward to 2012, Yokozuna was finally recognized for his incredible contributions to the wrestling world when he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. The induction was an emotional one, with his family members, part of the legendary Anoa'i wrestling dynasty, there to honor him.
We are so proud and honored to sit tonight and represent for our family.
His nephews, the USOs, proudly inducted their uncle, marking his place in history as one of the all-time greats. Yokozuna's legacy as a 2-time WWE champion lives on, remembered for his aura, his on-screen connection with his fans, and his size. It was an emotional night, but one that ensured the story of the super heavyweight would live on in the annals of WWE. Enjoyed the video? Crave more excitement? Stay tuned by clicking on any of the cards on your screen right now for more thrilling content. See you next time.